all have our favorite meals, but my favorites changes in different seasons, and now when it's colder I'm obsessed with these. Starting off with a creamy miso ramen or a noodle soup, which we're gonna need tofu for. So I have pressed my tofu for about 20 minutes. I'm one of those who don't have a tofu press, so you can just use like whatever heavy objects you have on top of the tofu for about 15-20 minutes. So I'm cubing the tofu, adding to a bowl together with the tamari sauce. You can also use soy sauce, and giving that a stir to combine and cover every piece in tamari. Set that aside while preparing the rest. So starting with mincing some garlic cloves, fresh ginger, and I'm slicing up some shiitake mushrooms. You can use whatever mushroom. I really like shiitake mushrooms at the moment. And a small saucepan depending on how many servings you make it for. I'm making for 2. So I'm just sauteing the mushrooms until they start releasing some water. Then I'm adding the ginger, garlic, and keep sauteing for another minute or 2. And adding in some extra kick. It is sambal oelek. Now this is the star in this recipe. It is miso paste. I'm using white miso paste. You can also substitute for the same amount tamari or soy sauce, but I would highly recommend using this because it gives such a nice umami flavor into the ramen. So yeah, just add in the miso paste and give it a stir. Then add in a cup of plain water and also a cup of vegetable broth, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, half a cup of plant milk, unsweetened plant milk. Give that a stir and let it simmer until the tofu cubes are done. So to make crispy tofu, we need some cornstarch. You can also use arrowroot starch, and toss that until every cube is covered in cornstarch and fry until golden brown on medium heat. If you have a non-stick pan, you actually don't need much oil for this. Meanwhile, you can prepare your noodles or chop the toppings. Before serving the noodle soup, add in some pressed lime juice right before and stir to combine. Then it's ready to be served in a bowl, and yeah, I'm adding my noodles, the crispy tofu, dry toasted corn kernels, scallions, and wow, this is so good. I just love curling up with a hot bowl of noodle soup when it's cold outside. This one hits all the spots. It is creamy, it is flavor packed, comforting. Just by making this soup base or ramen base, you can make this ramen into endless of combinations. You can add in whatever veggies you have, whatever noodles, just have it as a soup. It is just so good. I love having some kind of roasted bowl in winter. So for this one, I'm preparing a marinade with some tamari sauce, maple syrup, mustard, olive oil, and just stirring that up. Setting that aside, and now one of my favorite foods ever, tempeh, which I'm just chopping up into bite-sized cubes. Adding that to the marinade and placing a lid on, give it a nice shake and letting that marinate until the oven is preheated. Meanwhile, I'm preparing another favorite winter veggie, sweet potatoes. So I'm just slicing that in 2 halves lengthwise, placing it on an oven tray lined with parchment paper with flesh facing down. This way it will cook faster. Then adding the tempeh cubes onto the same tray, and important, save the marinade for later. So now this is gonna bake in the oven for about 25 minutes on 200 Celsius degrees. So when you're making a marinade, a delicious one like this one, try to save the marinade and use as a dressing or extra flavor for the dish afterwards. Or you can also add an extra like tahina or tahini. You will end up having the most flavorful and delicious dressing. So when the tahini is in there, I'm just stirring it up into a thick paste, adding some water to thin it out, and it's done. After 25 minutes, I'm removing the tempeh cubes from the tray to prevent burning and leaving the potatoes until soft for about 5 to 10 more minutes. This is how I look in week 29 of my pregnancy. For the bowl, I'm also gonna add some green kale. So after washing and rinsing, I'm just removing the stems, and I'm not a raw kale fan, so I'm just steaming it with a splash of water. It goes super quick, about a few seconds really. Adding that to a bowl, plus one of my other winter obsessions, sauerkraut. If you haven't tried sauerkraut, you are missing out. So just add sweet potato, the tempeh cubes, also some avocado, the dressing, and yum. Feel free to add in other winter fruits like apples, nuts, or cranberries. But this combination is so good and it's bursting with flavor. I highly recommend you to not skip the sauerkraut because it gives such a nice surprise flavor. So yeah, just try it. If you don't know what to do with leftover sauerkraut, try having it on an avocado toast with some black pepper, or why not a hummus toast also with some black pepper. It is a winner combination. If you haven't tried that, you are missing out. So yeah. If you've seen my fall meal prep video, I'm sorry you know this one, but it is one of my biggest obsessions right now, so I just have to include it. We're gonna need some potatoes, which I'm just chopping up into bite-sized cubes, and mooning some red onion and also fresh parsley. For protein, I'm gonna add some white beans. So now that everything is prepared, we can start cooking. I'm starting off by sauteing the red onion, then adding the garlic, some spices, the parsley, and yeah, this smells so good when you start sauteing this. Then the white beans, tomato paste, give it a stir, and just let the spices sink into those beans. Then I'm adding some vegetable broth, the chopped up potatoes, and letting that simmer for 30 minutes uncovered. You can never go wrong with a stew in colder days. I like serving mine with some vegan unsweetened yogurt, pickled red onion. I have pickled red onion on so much nowadays, some fresh parsley, and voila! This is a typical meal that I could live on for days because it's so comforting, healthy, and the flavors are just on point and wintry tasting. Also, this is a perfect recipe to prep in advance, so make yourself a favor and make a big batch and you will have a nice winter stew waiting for you during the week. If you want more fall inspired recipes that are also prep friendly, you can check out my previous video. There you will find a full fall meal prep or just take some fall vibe inspiration.